G'day guys, Clarky here with another IGTV, YouTube, Facebook video, wherever you're watching. Today we're going to discuss the signing of Brodie Croft to the Brisbane Broncos. We're not going to do any editing for this one, guys. I'm just going to sit in front of my camera and give you guys my raw, honest, sort of initial reaction because I was at work last night when this all sort of broke. Now, the first thing I will say is it's not official yet. The Broncos haven't officially announced it, and neither has Brodie Croft. However, a couple of things that sort of I can tell you right now it is going to happen. Peter Bedell is very close with Brodie Croft's manager, so you'd have to assume being friends he wouldn't have fed him fake information. And second, I've seen footage of Riley Jacks training with the Storm again. If you guys know Riley Jacks, we'll talk about it a bit later, but he did leave the Storm. Rumours suggested if he came back, that would be the final piece in allowing Croft to go, and that's now happened. So I think we can almost say it's going to happen here, guys. Very, very likely signs are pointing towards it. But let's move on to my thoughts and sort of reaction. First thing I thought was Brodie Croft is a very similar player to Thomas Dearden. A very similar player. He probably has a stronger kicking game, but my first question is, does this stunt the growth of Thomas Dearden? Because he only realistically lost one game last year. He lost to the Titans as well, but he was injured 6 minutes in. Let's not count that. He beat the Sydney Roosters. He lost to a red-hot Rabbitohs side, but the kid looks the goods. We can all sort of agree that. And then I'm sort of hearing this chat online, the general consensus around my page at least, a lot of Broncos fans saying, this is the final piece. This makes us a premiership contender. And although I rate Brodie Croft highly, and I think he is a fantastic player, I will not agree to the notion that signing Brodie Croft to the Brisbane Broncos answers all their prayers suddenly and they're now a premiership winning force. I can't buy into that, guys. I refuse to. I haven't seen enough from Brodie Croft. And quite frankly, and being completely honest, I don't think he's the correct fit up at Red Hill. And I'll get into that in a moment. The issue that I go back to with Thomas Dearden real quickly is, does this move stunt his growth? Because we've seen in the past, you can't have two inexperienced halves. Example A that I've got written down here, guys, Brooks and Mitchell Moses. Look at Mitch Moses now, reigning halfback of the year. Luke Brooks was the halfback of the year before that. But when they played together at the Tigers, it didn't work because they were both inexperienced. They've since split off, gone and got that experience alongside more experienced halves, Corey Norman and Benji Marshall, Eels and Tigers, of course. And now they're both playing fantastic footy. I think that evidence points towards the fact you just can't have two inexperienced halves in the NRL. Now, I'm going to give you guys 3 reasons why I don't like this move. But again, this isn't against Brodie Croft. This isn't me saying he's a bad player. These are concerns I have. Croft is a great player, but I don't think he is the right fit here for the Broncos. Number 1, he's never had to own the big moments. And when you look back at the Broncos last year, who's going to own those big moments? You look to your $1 million men. It wasn't Milford. It wasn't Darius Boyd. First thing I can think is Payne Haas breaking 6 defenders for the Panthers to race away and score. Then I think of David Fafita against the Eels, breaking 6 tackles himself, whatever it was, to set up that try or field goal. I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't the halves owning the big moments. And that's what you need, because you look at teams like the Sydney Roosters, we'll use them, we'll use the Newcastle Knights or Mitchell Pearce. They are successful because when they're successful, I should say, their halves are owning the game and owning the big moments. The Broncos relied on 2 teenagers last year, so I think we all agree that's an area they need to bolster significantly. Have they done it with Brodie Croft? Well, no, they haven't, because he's never had to own the big moments whilst playing alongside Cameron Smith and Cameron Munster. And I mean, rightfully so. One's the best hooker in the world, one's the best 5'8" in the world. The year before that, guess what? He played with the best fullback in the world, Billy Slater. So he's never had to own the big moments. That's a concern for Broncos. Number 2, he does not manage his side like a traditional halfback. And I know you can say, well, he won the minor premiership with the Storm. He was fantastic. He was, but he was a role player on that team. His job was to implement a short kicking game and a passing game to facilitate Cameron Munster and Jerome Hughes on the edges. That was his role with the Storm. And if you don't believe me, I've only got to put out the thought that Brodie Croft is going to overrule Cameron Smith when he calls a play. You think Brodie Croft goes, Cam, I got this. Munster, stay out of it. Hughes, get out on that edge. It wasn't happening. It just wasn't happening. And it's nothing against him because he's playing with the world's best player, possibly the best player to ever play rugby league at hooker. Cam Smith calls the shots. Cam Munster owns the big moments. It's not a knock against Brodie Croft, but whilst playing with the Melbourne Storm, he just hasn't really had an opportunity or a need to manage his side and own the big moments. And let's get to my third point here, guys. I'm going to use the Riley Jacks example. Now, this was something I raised as a concern before last season when he joined us at the Gold Coast Titans. I said, if he cannot look very good and he was dropped from a side that had Billy Slater, Cameron Munster, and Cooper Cronk at the time, sorry, not Cameron Munster. Well, Cameron Munster was there at fullback, and Cameron Smith. So we got 4 stars there. Munster, Smith, Cronk, and Slater. He was dropped from that team. So if you can't hold a consistent role, playing alongside, at the time, it was the big 3, Smith, Slater, and Cronk, probably the best spine we've ever seen in NRL history. If he couldn't manage his way in there, I assumed he would come to the Titans and struggle. And we're looking at the exact same thing here with Brodie Croft. And what's the resembling difference between them both? They were both dropped from the Storm and therefore looked for a release to go elsewhere. When Riley Jacks joined the Titans, the talk was he is going to take the Titans. They're going to do so well this year. He is such a good player. And it wasn't me being negative. It was me being realistic. And I have to do that again here with Brodie Croft. So when I put all that together, guys, hopefully I've broken it down, made a bit of sense. But I am interested to hear your guys' opinions. My final thoughts, I think the Broncos got it wrong. I think they should have pursued Blake Green on a 1-year deal, potentially a 2. I'm not really a fan of the 2. I think a 1-year deal for Blake Green would have been good. Maybe even a coaching role afterwards, because then you will have had that player to coach sort of mentor role with Thomas Dearden. Overall, I think they got it wrong. I don't see the Broncos being premiership contenders on the back of this signing. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Thanks, guys.